Hello everyone, my name is Joana Bala. I am a young professional at the Central European Initiative, or the CEI. I will guide you through this video, which is an overview of what the 2030 Agenda is about. It provides examples on how it can be fulfilled through interviews and contributions by scientists and promoters of the Sustainable Development Goals. They're meant to give you some insights or food for thought for your contributions within the second edition of the Call for Ideas, which is called Imagine. The competition itself is dedicated to high school students coming from the 19 member states of both organizations, and to collect concrete suggestions or contributions which will lead to the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. For the first edition of our call, we received over 70 applications from high schools across our member states, and together with the Adriatic Ion Initiative and the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we awarded 3 of them. To give you an idea of one of the winning schools, let's have a look at the first prize idea, which comes from Durrës, Albania. And the awarded project aims to donate food and economic assistance to families in need, with the proceeds deriving from the sale of what was collected from all the local schools. And then throughout the rest of the video, you'll also have a chance to hear from the other awarded schools as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Alina Jane and I'm the leader of Albania's winning team in CIE's project, which we decided to call Less Hazardous Waste in the City, More Clean Food and Water on the Tables of the Poor. I'm coming as a representative of Ibrahim Kodras High School, which was founded in Durrës in 2014. In addition to the formal education, our school's mission is to create responsible individuals and active citizens. Our students have been systematically engaged in national and international extracurricular activities. We learned about the call for applications via email, and it sounded like a very interesting project to be part of. Our idea for this project came because of different activities organized among one of the most polluted rivers in Europe by our students, their teachers and lecturers of Alexandra Moisiu University, who have been continuously undertaking activities on cleaning the environment. In order to work with this project, we created 4 groups of students and introduced them to the United Nations Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development Goals. Our students were asked about what would they like to change in our society and how could that be done regarding to the Sustainable Development Goals. In a TRICE, we're trying to put our ideas in action, cooperating with local institutions, other schools and NGOs in the area. We will try to hold trainings on how to sort waste using professional methods, organize activities on cleaning the environment, and find different ways to help the poor families. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in such amazing projects. We are hoping for further cooperations in such projects which will help the youth represent their best ideas.
Let's now listen to our Secretary General Roberto Antonione and Deputy Secretary General Nina Kodelja.
Dear students, as Secretary General of the Central European Initiative, I am glad the first edition of our Call for Ideas competition was a success. It confirms the commitment towards ensuring that youth of today and tomorrow are empowered, included, and equal. We look forward to seeing how the 3 schools awarded within the first call in Albania, Croatia, and Hungary will further develop their suggestions. Since everyone can contribute to meeting the 2030 Agenda and to benefiting development at local level, we strongly believe that you, our future change makers, hold the key to achieving the global goals. You are passionate and care about the world around you, just like one of John Lennon's most popular songs, Imagine, which ideally talks about a better world and which has inspired the title of the second edition of our call. So, are you interested in learning more about the 2030 agenda and in gaining a better knowledge of important international organizations such as the United Nations? The best ranked school in this competition will have a chance to take part in a study visit at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Therefore, I invite you to think about how you can play an active role in building a better future and which ideas you can come up with to foster the social, economic, environmental sustainability at community, local and regional level. With this activity, we hope we will be able to better respond to your needs, and through your ideas, we can contribute to making the SDGs a reality for all. We are eager to see what you can do.
From my side, I wish to underline why we have considered it important to go ahead with the second edition of this Call for Ideas, connecting sustainable development goals, active citizenship, and young people. First of all, in our capacity as regional international organizations, we have to and want to do our part in what is considered a global action for people, prosperity, and planet. This initiative, called Imagine, which is supported by the Central European Initiative, together with the Adriatic Ionian Initiative, and in cooperation with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy, wants to be a tangible stepping stone in this direction. During the video, you will hear in-depth presentations of the principles of the Agenda 2030. But what counts is that the agenda was adopted by the world's leaders, and thus they have committed countries of the world to take forward this ambitious plan. Less than a decade separates us from the set date, and everybody has to play part in this endeavor. The vision has to be shared by all, and actions also need to be taken at the local level, by local governments, administrations, by private businesses, by industry, by media, academia, non-governmental organizations. Citizens need to be involved, and above all, you, the young, the future of our planet. As already mentioned before my intervention, this competition wants you to learn about the world's challenges, and on the other hand, it wants to stimulate you to think about what you can do to make a positive change, what you can do today to make a better tomorrow. Therefore, we really hope that many of you will decide to join us on this path and apply. It would be especially great if some of you could think about collaborating with fellow high school students from across the borders in searching for transnational solutions for pressing issues. Also, collaborations with local authorities and other stakeholders would be very useful. The best of luck to all of you.
Moving from theory to practice is important to learn more about the implementation of the goals and how to tackle them more strategically. For this reason, we are glad to have with us Mounir Ghribi, who is the Director of International Cooperation at the National Institute of Oceanography and Applied Geophysics, sharing with us some insights directly from the field.
Today we will talk about how we can boost the youth, the engagement, the involvement of youth to transform the Sustainable Development Goals in real actions. Sustainable Development Goals were adopted in 2015 by the UN, United Nations General Assembly. 193 countries voted yes for the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is an outcome of a general conference that had been held in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil in 2012, where all countries agreed to have 17 goals, 169 targets, and 232 indicators. These indicators are used to measure the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals at different levels, in developing countries, in least developed countries, and in developed countries. This is important. Building on the principle of leaving no one behind, this plan of actions is made for people, for planet, and for prosperity. Central to sustainable development is the water, food, and energy nexus. I would like to explain for you this concept of the interaction between water, food, and energy. Water is used for irrigation. Water is also having problems by pesticides and fertilizers coming from plants. Water is used to produce energy, and energy is used to process water. Energy is used to process food, but today we have problems of losing some lands that have been used for agriculture to produce energy using plants for biofuel. So this nexus is important for sustainable development, and we need to ensure food and water security, and also we need to ensure that people will live for producing clean energy using renewable energies. The Sustainable Development Goals have three main pillars: environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and economic sustainability. Now we will see a movie made by the UNICEF for Sustainable Development Goal overview.
Did you know that the UN Sustainable Development Goals are a universal call to action that unites 193 countries around the world? If these global goals are fulfilled by 2030, life on Earth will be better for everyone. So, what are these goals? Eliminate poverty in all its forms. No hunger. Everyone should have safe, nutritious, and sufficient food. Everyone has equal access to healthcare, thus ensuring our well-being and a healthy life. Equal access to a quality education. Ensure gender equality where women and girls have the same opportunities as men and boys. By achieving these goals, each member of our society will be equal, safe, and happy. UN global goals also include access to safe drinking water and sanitation, access to clean energy that is safe for people and the environment, sustainable and stable economic growth. Everyone has a decent job, strong infrastructure, and the support of innovations. Lower inequality within and among countries. Cities and settlements be developed without damaging the environment and people. Achieving these goals will result in the well-being of people and our planet. We can further take care of our environment with the following goals: sustainable and safe production and consumption of products. Take urgent measures to reduce climate change and its impact. Ensure the sustainable use and protection of ocean and sea resources. Restore and protect Earth's ecosystems. By achieving these goals, we will form a society where strong institutions ensure peace and justice. It is important for everyone to be involved and to build partnerships for achieving sustainable development goals. You are part of this process. Demand the implementation of these goals. Take the lead and share information with your friends.
Sustainable Development Goals are universal. They are applied to all people and to all countries. We would like to cluster them in some clusters, to the biosphere, to the society, the economy. And we have an important pillar, which is partnership, which is a cross-cutting goal. Now we will see these clusters. As you can see, we have different clusters. The first cluster is the biosphere. It contains 4 goals. The second cluster is the society, and it contains 8 goals. The last cluster is the economy, and it contains 4 goals. And we have one goal that is cross-cutting for all the goals, is the partnership. Now we will see the goals that belong to each cluster. We start by the biosphere. Clean water and sanitation. Water is very important. Young people need to read books, to have also importance of the water in their life. Water is very important for life, and water is also death, which means that we have a lot of problems caused by water today, tsunami, inundation, and floods. The second goal is the climate action. We need to make awareness about climate. People need to know the problem of climate today, global warming. Life beyond the water. This is another goal that belongs to the same cluster. We need to use less material, plastic materials. We need to reduce the pollutant that come to the seas, oceans. And finally, life on land. We need to conserve our biodiversity. We need to recycle, to reuse, and to reduce materials, and to conserve our planet. Now we start with the cluster of society, and we start with the no poverty. It's an important goal. Just think about sponsor a child in a developing world, that you give him the possibility to educate himself. We have a lot of NGOs, and we have a lot of providers that could have the possibility also to help people. But we need skills, we need people, volunteer. So volunteer yourself at least once a week that help homeless people. Good health and well-being. We have problem today. The pandemic situation have shown how delicate is the health system in each country. So we need to educate ourselves, thus starting from ourselves. No smoking, just make sports. And for your information, we have diseases that are #1 killer. Heart attack today is still a problem, it's a dilemma, and we need to tackle this problem. Quality education. We have to take care and to encourage people to have culture at their disposal. People should go to the museum, people should travel, young people should understand other culture. And this is how you can educate small child since the beginning. Gender equality. The gender, it's an important aspect. Today we need to find opportunity for people on their profiles regarding their gender. Gender issues start even from home. You need to treat your sister, your mother in the right way. Affordable and clean energy. Today we need to encourage using renewable energies. Renewable sources of energy are available, but we use them very few, and this is the time to use it. Just think about solar energy, photovoltaic, used in school, in homes, in hospitals, and in some specific buildings. Sustainable cities and communities. We need to think about a smart use of our cities. Bicycles, clean bus, these are transport, public transport. These are the ways that we could reduce pollution in the cities. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. Since a couple of years now, we lost the trust between individuals and institutions. We need to create again this trust, and we need to create a peaceful environment for people to grow. Now we will move to the last cluster. It's about the economy. And we start by the decent work and economic growth. We need to encourage more jobs opportunity for youth. They are the leaders of tomorrow, and we need to give them this opportunity. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Often we have three pillars: the government, the industry, and the academy that are not talking to each other. So we need to encourage this to communicate, to interact between each other. Overlapping of three components make innovation, and we need to innovate. Reduce inequality. It's important today that children should see other children from different cultures. They should play with other kids to understand that we are all equal. Responsible consumption and production. It's important today that we reduce and we reuse and we recycle. And finally, as I said in the beginning, we have an important goal which is cross-cutting to all goals, which is partnership. If you want to walk fast, you can walk alone. But if you want to walk strong, you need to walk with others. Partnership and cooperation is crucial.
Our next speaker, Maria Cristina Pedicchio, is going to share with us the story about one of the most successful explorations, which was made possible thanks to the great collective efforts among different members of society. And nowadays, the successful missions in Europe still rely on the same formula, working together.
Do you know what the Apollo mission is? Probably you are too young to remember personally this event. It was the 60s and the American President Kennedy was launching a visionary project. What was the project? Simple goal, landing a man on the moon and mainly reporting the man's safety to Earth. The project was a success. In 1969, Neil Armstrong was the first man that put his foot on the moon. A collective success that brought many technological, extraordinary new innovation not only to America but to all the world. If we try to analyze the secret of this success, the key word is one: collective effort, collective projects. All components of the country were involved: public, private, research innovation institution, political one, financial one, but mainly citizens believed in this project. They put all their efforts and everyone was emotionally involved in the idea. Starting from this example in the States, nowadays, Europe wants to develop its own missions. So Europe wants to decide on a few, not too many, priorities where to invest research, innovation, money, energies for the next 10 years, up to 2030. So what could be these main missions and priority? Now think if you would be the Prime Minister, if you would be a parliamentary people, and you would be asked to decide what are the priorities for your country, in your region, what do you think is the first thing to do? Not so easy. You can imagine that for Europe, for all European countries to decide something, let's say maximum 5 priorities, it has been very complicated. But finally they succeeded. There are 5 priorities and they are all related to sustainable development goals. First one is related to health, it's cancer. When it has been decided the pandemic period was not yet started, otherwise probably the choice would have been different. The other 4 are related to environment, to sustainability, and they are the following. One is on climate change, one is on food and soil, one is on smart cities, and one is on oceans, seas, and water. So 5 missions, very clear, with clear schedules and projects to be developed in these months. I can tell you what I'm doing. I'm personally involved in the seas, oceans, water mission, the hydrosphere mission, because we talk of all waters. Waters is as the base of sustainable development goals. So it's a huge argument. And try to summarize what Europe, and not only Europe, also non-European countries should do We found a metaphor. We could say, a mascot is a starfish. So now this mission is called Starfish Mission. Why starfish? Everybody knows where the starfish is, also if you don't live on the seaside. And mainly kids love starfish. And if you love something, you will do your best to protect it. So the starfish has 5 arms. The 5 arms correspond to the 5 objectives that Europe plans to implement in the next 10 years. And again, let's see what are these 5 objectives. First one is decarbonization. Decarbonization for marine transportation, for aquaculture, for everything. The second one is ecosystem. The considerations that we must defend species, we must defend biodiversity. Biodiversity is disappearing, and this is a huge, huge problem. Third point, pollution. Keywords, zero pollution. Very ambitious. And when we talk about pollution, we mean pollution from plastic, microplastics. You probably know, you have seen the images, dramatic images of seas and rivers and lakes full of plastic. But not only plastic, that are nutrients, that are pharmaceutical, that are chemical, that are polluting our hydrosphere. So we have 3 more scientific and technological aspects. Then there are 2 more. One is about the governance. The point is that we must act together, all actors, all policymakers, institutions, research, economic, public, private. Last one, my favorite one, filling the knowledge and emotional gap. So this is very important. Here we talk about knowledge and the idea that we must develop education. Education at all levels, starting from young kids. Education is a key for future, but also emotions. With missions, we want to involve people emotionally. You must emotionally believe that seas and waters are important for your life, for the life of the planet. Subjects have been disseminated. We were trying, and the Commission and all countries were trying to do their best to inform citizens, because we want citizens to be part of all this. What we are used to say is that people, citizens, should co-design and co-implement all these programs. Co-design, they should be part of the planning. Co-implement, they should be part of the concrete implementation. All citizens. And many, many events have been done in most of European countries, but also non-European countries, because this is an international project. And you can see on the map all countries where events have been organized to disseminate this information, and you can also try to push your region, your country to get more information about that. Now this is all part of the so-called Green Deal strategy. You have probably heard about that. It's a new European strategy for the next 10 years and is based on 3 key concepts: sustainability, greener world, and inclusion. The slogan is that no one has to be left behind. So all of us, all of you can play a role. We can say each of you and each of us must play a role. A single role is very important. Each one is responsible, but we must all remember that there is no more time for the planet. We must act urgently, we must all act now.
We are also inspired by the idea coming from the second awarded proposal, coming from the Gimnazia Pula in Croatia. And the award we granted them was a recognition of their inventive work, which seeks to collect plastic waste from the sea and create small everyday objects with a 3D printer.
Hello, my name is Marko Kalčić and I'm a teacher in high school Gimnazia Pula in Croatia. We are one of the 3 schools that was awarded by the Central European Initiative for the project idea Plastics Scholastic towards better education on innovation and environmental sustainability.
The idea is based on the context of plastic waste pollution and the problem of single-use plastics. Mass and reckless use has resulted in a huge increase in waste, which we are witnessing every day. Plastics and microplastics endanger the seas and oceans, pollute the soil and drinking water, and endanger nature and human health.
Together with students and professionals in the field of nature preservation, we want to learn more about the problem of plastic waste and then rethink and recycle plastic waste to design and produce functional products for everyday life, but also products that are used in various economy fields such as fishery and aquaculture.
This idea represents a continuation of our efforts because we have already established an eco lab in the school. We turned an old classroom into a lab facility, but the equipment was only rented. Now we have a chance to re-equip the facilities with a plastic shredder, extruder and 3D printer, which will be used by the students to learn how to recycle plastic waste and produce new, usable objects.
We will try to develop our ideas together with the fishery local action group Istarska Batana to find out if by developing products from plastic waste found in the sea we could increase interest of local stakeholders in launching activities in the blue economy and raise environmental awareness among local and tourists.
In Gymnasia Pula, our goal is to become an education and recycling hub that connects everyone who prioritize recycling, innovation and smarter production to increase sustainability in general.
Our next speaker is Florence Colleoni, a researcher at OGS, who will tell us more about SDG 13 on climate action, as well as global warming and its impact on the planet.
I'm sure you have been aware of climate change. You have been hearing it from newspaper, TV, and I'm sure you have understood that climate changes are impacting on your life and on the economy of your country. Actually, there is something very important that you might be aware of, is that there is a striking difference between weather and climate. So here we are not talking about weather, which is defined by varying conditions in atmosphere and ocean over a few hours to few days to few months. But we're talking about climate, which is defined by measuring variations over at least 3 decades. So at least 30 years. Actually, what the scientist has been measuring over the past decades, and I would say at least 1 century, is a temperature rising about 1.3 degrees at global level. But this doesn't mean that this warming is uniform. Actually, it's varying amongst the region, and there are regions that warms faster than others. And polar areas, the Mediterranean areas, for example, are areas that definitely changes fast, are warming fast. And this warming is being caused mainly by CO2 emission in the atmosphere caused by human activities. So industries, transportations, farming, all activities that produces emissions somehow. We are very sure of that because nowadays we have a CO2 concentration that is measured globally above 400 ppm. And for such concentration, you have to go back in time at least 3 million years ago to observe the same kind of concentration. So our carbon emissions today are going beyond the natural variability of the system. What is the strongest impact of the CO2? So we have been saying temperature increase. So temperature has been increasing because CO2 has this greenhouse effect on the surface, which means that most of the heat that is emitted by the Earth is trapped within the atmosphere and is not dispersed into the space. And thus we are just warming further our surface. So the more emission, the warmer at the surface. What is really important for you to understand is that the ocean is perhaps the most fundamental element of this climate system because it absorbs 93% of the heat that we are producing due to our emissions. So this greenhouse effect is mitigated strongly by the ocean. And the ocean also absorbs 30% of those carbon emissions directly within the water, which causes strong acidification. I'm sure you have been hearing about this coral bleaching in Australia and in other parts of the world. And because the ocean is also warming, it changes also the environment for the living species there. So what are the the strongest impacts of those climate changes. I'm sure you have been noticing in your territories that perhaps you have more strong rainfalls, droughts that last longer, dust storms, surge storms for who is living in coastal areas. And another big effect is sea level rise that is caused by the melting of the ice sheets and glaciers around the world that makes the sea level to rise globally, uniformly, a bit everywhere. And all together increases the risk and vulnerability of your territory. Thus, I think it is important for you to understand that in the future those effects will strengthen. They will be also more frequent. This is what we have been projecting and forecasting with our climate models. Thus, a part should be mitigated. It means that you should try to think about something that will produce less emissions. But a strong part will be about adaptation, adapting to this climate change that will anyway still be there and will increase further in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Trieste is a city with renowned and excellent scientific centers, and we can see the synergies coming from the scientific community and citizens firsthand, be it in the areas of biosphere, economy, or society. Our next speaker, Simone Libralato, will show us a few concrete examples boosting sustainability and building awareness in the city.
Aquatic life is fundamental for the entire life in the world. Marine biodiversity is a key element for maintaining several ecosystem services that the marine ecosystem is providing to humans. Mediterranean and Black Sea, despite they are only 4% of the world global ocean, they contain more than 10% of the global ocean biodiversity. This biodiversity is exploited since centuries, as it is documented in several documents, materials, remainings, and even mosaics around the Mediterranean and Black Sea. These historical documents are testifying that several marine ecosystems, marine species, were exploited since centuries. Nowadays, of course, the fishing evolved and several techniques are used in different parts of the Mediterranean to exploit different species according to season, to day, night. We are exploiting several species, more than 100 species, according to season and local conditions. These species guarantee a flow of something like 1 million tons per year of fish and shellfish that can be used for human consumption. These products have a value of about 3.6 billion US dollars that guarantee the survivalship and the professional activity of fishing to about 785,000 fishermen in Black Sea and Mediterranean. There is an important exploitation and tradition of fisheries in the Mediterranean and Black Sea, therefore. But this is going to face some critical situations nowadays. Since a few years, there are worrying signals of overexploitation of marine ecosystem and marine resources. In 2018, 75% of the stocks that were assessed as overfished, so in critical conditions, like anchovy in the Adriatic Sea or turbot in the Black Sea. These species are facing a critical situation and their exploitation is going to become less and less economically profitable. The reason for this exploitation, that is very common in many areas of the Mediterranean and Black Sea, is due to several reasons. Not only historical overfishing, it's also due to an overcapacity of fishing fleets. The critical situation is also due to the fact that it is economically less efficient nowadays to fish. The value of the product is low compared to the costs of having it. There is a lot of competition. The market is acquiring few species and therefore the fishermen are targeting these species and overexploiting them. Furthermore, the fact that this activity is a difficult activity and with some problems in terms of economic profitability, it's not very attractive for the young generations. Several activities are done in different parts of the Mediterranean and Black Sea in order to reverse this critical pattern. The activities pertain to the domain of ecological, economic and social aspects. From the ecological point of view, there is a lot of potential for establishing marine protected areas or managed areas in the Mediterranean and Black Sea that allows the population to restore, to recover and to make their biological cycles. Also, there are technical measures that are done in order to reduce the discards of fishing. So the discard of species that are caught but they are not commercially valuable. And other activities that pertain to the domain of protecting the resources from the exploitation. On the economic aspect, there is a lot of potential for increasing the value of marine products. The value is increased through opportune activities like labeling and certification. These activities increase the demand and the potential demand of fish products, increasing their value, and represent an increase of revenue for the fishery. Other activities include the increase of efficiency of boats, the decrease of fuel costs, and other economic aspects that can be done for reducing the costs, including making the producer and the consumer closer in order to avoid the several steps that there are to the market. Also using applications to our mobiles, they can facilitate this interaction and the direct selling of fish products. But there are also opportunities for making, for example, more profitable the fisheries by making it closer to other sectors like the tourism and facilitating the fishing tourism, for example. These and many other activities are done in the Mediterranean and Black Sea in order to increase the sustainability of exploitation. But it is important to involve society. It is important to involve the broad public and for having new ideas for increasing the sustainability of exploitation of resources and the maintenance of this traditional activity that is fishing in Mediterranean and Black Sea.
Goal number 6, tackling healthy waters, seas and humans, is central to the work of our next speaker, Francesca Malfatti, who is a professor of microbiology at the University of Trieste. Let's hear what she has to say about how society has shaped ecosystems and the related responsibilities.
Today we will explore the relationship among healthy water, healthy rivers and healthy sea and healthy humans. Let's start from the very beginning. Planet Earth dates 4.6 billion years. Around 3.9 billion years, microbes appeared on land. Since then, through their action on the ecosystem, they have made life as we know it being possible on our planet. We humans just appeared yesterday, in a way, around 300,000 years. When we are considering human impact, we need to focus about the different way how society has been changing and shaping the ecosystem for its own benefit. Now we know that we need to take action and be responsible for the choices that has been made so far. Despite the changes that human population has imparted on the ecosystem, microbes has always been there, doing their things and keeping, in a way, our Earth still habitable. They are providing many important ecosystem services, such as the provision one, the regulating one and the supporting one. Provision services are, for instance, food, clean water, clean air. Regulating systems are the function that microbes do when they do degrade waste or pollutants. And regulating services within an ecosystem context are all the microbial biochemical action that microbes do. Respiration, photosynthesis, and degrading of organic matter that release nutrients for our plants and other organisms in order for them to keep living and growing. Microbes and their biogeochemical action connect humans to the environment, back and forth. We can quantify the human impact on land and below water. Let's think about at the human settlement, how many highways, all the factories, how many dams, how many forests has been cut down in order to promote agriculture and livestock. The same thing can be applied below water. What are the catches of the fleets, or what is the yield of the artisanal fisheries, what is the touristic impact, and also the deep sea mining, and how we have changed the beauty of the place, such as the river of the ocean, the mangrove in an estuary. All these now we can quantify and give a number. And when you look at the map that tells you the story about the human impact, you will see that in Europe we are impacting heavily the land as well as the sea, the river, the lakes. Since microbes have been on planet Earth since the beginning, they have no problem in adapting on a different environment that we humans have created because of society, economy. The problem is us. How are we going to react when the ecosystem cannot go back to a healthy state? Let's think about the case of the plastic. Plastic was invented in the 50s, so microbes have been exposed to the plastic sphere since the 1950s. Now we know it's a big issue and we cannot close our eyes. We produce it on land, and because of mismanagement, there is a lot of plastic debris that floats in the ocean, in the seas, in the rivers. So plastic contaminates the water, one of the most important elements for life itself. Microbes, given their diversity and also different metabolic strategy, have started degrading plastic. So this is a good news. In 2016, a group of Japanese scientists have isolated a bacterium that can degrade plastic. That means it can use it as food source. There is no more little particles, nanoplastic and microplastic left when this bacterium is acting on PET. This exceptional discovery is good news for society, since now we can use the enzymes that this bacterium uses to degrade PET and change it in order to make it more successful and more efficient in degrading PETs itself and hopefully different kinds of materials. This is an example that is showing how mighty microbes, the best environmental engineers, are always helping humanities, also without knowing it. So now back to the first question. What can we do? Where are we going? Well, first we need to change our mindset. We need to have another business as usual scenario, at least for the plastic. We need to stop throwing it in the environment and keeping creating or using different kind of materials and or different kind of plastics. On the other hand, given the life that we have experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that we are tightly interconnected. Human health, animal health, ecosystem health are one big pillar, one big goal that we need to embrace with a multidisciplinary approach. Bottom-up initiatives such as Fridays for Future have impacted our life irreversibly in a positive way. Now we are all called to understand what is our environmental impact and footprint. How many liters of water do we use? Where is the food coming from? Is this protected or not? What is our garbage production? How many kilos of plastic in 1 month at school, at work, within the country? What is the ratio of plastic that is recycled versus virgin plastic are we using in our daily life? Let's develop together a better unit to define the environmental impact that you have in your life, in your country. And let's work together to find innovative way, full of fantasy, that can help us solving all the problems we are facing.
The third awarded project from Budapest, Hungary, was based on the awareness that 40% of schools worldwide do not have soap bars to wash their hands. With low-cost basic ingredients, they aim to produce soap bars to be donated to the Red Cross for countries in Africa, Oceania and South America.
I warmly welcome everyone from Budapest, Hungary, from Eötvös József Secondary Grammar School. First of all, I'd like to thank you for being able to take part in this competition and being selected among the 3 best schools. Eötvös is more than a 167-year-old school. On the one hand, we proudly preserve our traditions, and on the other hand, we are ready for innovations. We strongly believe that SDGs are our present and future. That's why we happily joined this competition.
We are Bán Kozma and Gergely Márton, who came up with the idea and led the student team of our school.
It has always been important for Eötvös to motivate their students to help their community. Therefore, Eötvös regularly offers us quite similar opportunities. We first heard about the call in school and we immediately knew that we would like to take part in it. In our project called Green Soap Movement, our whole school works together to create environmentally friendly soap, which is shipped to areas in need all around the world with the help of the Red Cross, helping students in developing areas maintain a higher level of hygiene, which is especially important these days.
Bán and me were the ones who came up with the idea. Then we involved and inspired other students to be part of this school-sized project. There were students who were set out to search for official receipts, also ones who had to make contact with organizations like Red Cross, who helped us to transport the products where we wanted, and also ones who had to dive deeply in the logistical implementation part.
We just can't explain how grateful we are for this amazing opportunity to be able to learn about the life-changing and sustainable goals of the future. I can confidently say that it had a great influence in our way of thinking after the project than before.
As a matter of fact, working on problems are a much more intellectual, thought-provoking and motivational process of learning than just hearing about them in the news, so we highly recommend projects like this to everyone.
Valeria Di Biagio, a researcher at OGS, will tell us more about Copernicus, the European Programme for Earth Observation, which provides us with useful information on climate change that is accessible to all.
Copernicus Technical Support, may I help you? You have many problems. Let's see now, please give me your credentials. First name? Mediterranean. Date of birth? Oh, I didn't think you were a million years old, though. Your voice sounds so youthful. Here you are, Mediterranean Sea. You are one of the areas of greatest interest for our program, do you know? Copernicus, the European Programme for Earth Observation. We also deal with the oceans, with particular attention to European seas. Just like you, we make observations and forecasts of the state of the sea using satellite data, experimental measurements, computer simulations, information that everyone can freely download. Yes, please calm down. What a rough sea. Tell me, you don't feel good and it's getting worse and worse. How do you feel? Temperature. I'm checking the report of our marine monitoring service. Please hold on. Here it is. Due to global warming, the surface temperature of Mediterranean Sea has risen by 1 degree over the past 25 years. Are you also experiencing bloating? I suspected that. When a liquid is heated, it increases in volume. You have also to consider the melting of glaciers and polar ice caps, and so the mean sea level rises. In your case, by 6 centimeters in the last 25 years. What are you saying? Acidity? That depends on the absorption of CO2 produced by human activities that dissolves in the sea and generates carbonic acid. Compared to the pre-industrial period, the acidity of the oceans has increased by 30%. How it will go in the future? For long-term predictions, you should contact the Copernicus Climate Change Service, Key 2. However, I can disclose you that scenarios are worrying. Warmer seas contain less oxygen, as stress the metabolism of marine organisms. The increase in acidity hinders the formation of skeletons and shells, and the sea level rise threatens coastal environments. Something must be done, of course. Look, Copernicus deploys the most advanced scientific knowledge and technologies, and this is necessary to identify effective measures against the threats of climate change. Be confident. An entire scientific community is working for your health. You're welcome. It was a pleasure. Goodbye. Copernicus Technical Support, may I help you? What did you say? Baltic Sea. Yet another one. Oh, sorry, I was just talking to a colleague. Please, tell me. Yes? Yes, I'm checking.
Moving on to the area of society, we will now explore renewable energy and deep mining, thanks to the contribution of Angelo Camerlenghi from the OGS.
We want to be clean and green. We want to use renewable energy. But why is the transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy so slow to happen? The hydrocarbons have a great advantage. That was the secret of in their history. They are liquid, they are fluid. This is petroleum. Gas is even more fluid than this. When they form in the soil, in the rocks, they migrate naturally into huge reservoirs. Once you pinch the reservoir with a hole, then the fluid can come out naturally whenever you need. You can open and close the valve and you get the energy you need anytime. Hydrocarbons are therefore easy to use, but they pollute the air in two ways. When we burn them to produce energy, they produce CO2, which is responsible for climate change, and they produce some pollution, chemical pollution. Renewable energies, instead, cannot be controlled as well as fossil fuels. The sun is shining sometimes and other times not. For example, during the night it is not shining. The wind is blowing intermittently, and the ocean currents and tides come and go. So the secret to develop a real economy based on renewable energy is to find a way to efficiently store the energy when it is produced, to be used when it is needed. And this is done by storing energy in batteries. All our devices that we use every day, The simplest one is a cellular phone, but computers, many tools, including cars, bicycles, are powered by batteries. So we have to admit that we are going to live in a rechargeable world. Now, batteries that are so important for renewable energies, we should ask ourselves, are they renewable and sustainable? To make a battery, you need raw materials, minerals, metals like lithium. I think everybody knows lithium, copper, gold, zinc, platinum, silver. And these metals are found only in a few places on Earth. They are not everywhere, and they are not in Europe, for example. We live in Europe. We don't have these minerals in Europe. And they are found only in China, Africa, South America, let's say primarily in these places. And this is a problem because if any of these countries owning the mines would like for any geopolitical reason to stop the export of these important raw materials for the electronic industry, there would be a big crisis. Secondly, these raw materials, the raw materials that are in the batteries, are not there forever. Like hydrocarbons, we will run out of them one day because the use is increasing so fast. And the third very important point that nobody thinks enough is that the workers working in these mines are not treated as they should. So the rights of the workers there are not respected, not often respected. For example, there is a child labor abuse that is very common in these places. So every time we use a battery, let's think of the costs behind the production of every single battery. And here comes the role of the bottom of the oceans. We know that the bottom of the deep ocean, it means 3-4 kilometers of water depth, contain a lot of these raw materials needed for batteries and electronic components. They are in the so-called manganese nodules. These are sort of rocks like potatoes made of these metals that stay at the seabed, not below the seabed. Or they are found in extensive crusts that cover volcanic areas and seamounts of the vast seabed of the Pacific Ocean. An interesting thing of these deposits, mineral deposits, is that they are so far from the coast that the seabed where they are does not belong to anyone. They are outside any jurisdictional control of any country. So, in theory, anyone with the technology to pick up them and sell them to the market could do it. The industry is now able to operate at any depth of the ocean, 3-4 kilometers water depth. The reason is that the seafloor is used for many new applications like laying internet cables, pipelines, foundations for platforms, and in the future perhaps also deep sea mines. This industry is based on a huge technological development. Everything in the deep ocean is unmanned, so there is no one going down there. It is only robots, remotely operated vehicles like these, which are huge robots connected with a wire to the ship. They can handle, fix things. They can really operate the deep sea as if we were on the exposed land surface. The question is now, is deep sea mining sustainable? Is there an impact on the marine ecosystem? We scientists are working on this. It is not an easy task because working in the deep sea implies a lot of money, long time to perform research. Think that if marine ecosystems at large water depths take a lot of time to react to any perturbation. So if we simulate the perturbation of deep sea mining, it will take years until we detect any impact. So the answer will come. We have a suspect that the impact will be high. But in the meantime, during this transition time, we can apply the basic and simple principle of the circular economy. This means that by recycling a battery like this, in which all the components have remained after the battery is exhausted. Only the electrons have gone away. If we recycle the batteries and any electronic components like this, we can make sure that the renewable energy economy will be sustainable.
Michele Pipan, a professor of exploration geophysics, will explain more about greening cities and regions through the potential of geothermal energy, such as direct heat and the heat generated by our planet.
Good morning. I will be talking about heat. Heat is a very familiar concept for all of us, for mankind, since we depend actually on heat for our life itself. And since the beginning of mankind, we've been using heat in many different forms. The most familiar ones are the so-called direct uses. What means direct use of heat? Heat is a form of energy, and one of the most familiar kind of direct use is the one that we make possibly every day by pouring hot water or using hot water for bathing or for any other type of use like cooking, for example. And this is quite familiar. Less familiar way to use heat is the one I will be showing you, and in this way of using heat, we Italians are pioneers, because this is a form of use of heat which is an indirect use. The wheel is spinning, and the energy that drives the spinning of the wheel is heat. The simple heat of a cup of tea, for example. And this will be going on for a long time now. This is a very clever engine conceived by a Scottish scientist, the Stirling engine. Now, luckily enough, it's starting to work. And from the spinning of a wheel, you can also produce electricity. So heat can be used, and it is used most commonly to produce electricity. What I will be talking today is a very special kind of heat we are really familiar with, but we don't know actually that it is there, and it is the heat that is generated by our Earth, our planet. Because normally we think of heat about something which is produced by combustion of fossil fuels, for example, or gas, or wood, or by the sun, radiation from the sun. But actually, right beneath our feet, oh, it's working, right beneath our feet, there is an enormous amount of heat which is stored in the inner of our planet. You must think that the amount of energy which is stored in the inner part of our planet is approximately 10 times what we need to supply the energy consumption worldwide. So we might harness this energy to produce what is needed by humanity to go ahead with its industrial and its production and with its life itself. What is geothermal heat? You must think that geothermal heat is heat stored in the inner part of the planet, which at the central part, in the core of the planet, reaches temperatures which are similar to those which are at the surface of the sun. That means approximately around 6,000 degrees Celsius. Geothermal heat produces a flux across a flow of heat across the surface of the Earth, which is in the order of 76 terawatts, which means an enormous amount of energy. If you think that the most powerful nuclear power plant today produces has a capacity in the order of 8 gigawatts. We are talking about more than thousands, say 10,000s of times that what is produced by nuclear energy in the maximum amount today. And when did mankind come in touch with this type of energy? Since the real beginning of the life on the Earth, we must think that the first human community which were based in the Afar Depression in Eastern Africa, most probably came in touch with geothermal energy, because that area is full with hot springs, steam geysers, the surface evidences of geothermal energy. So for sure, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of years ago, man has been using for cooking, for bathing, geothermal energy for its daily life. But in the last, say, century, because the starting point is very precise, and it is 1904 here in Italy, in Larderello, we had the first experiment of generation of electricity from geothermal energy. And it was an experiment done by an Italian scientist, an Italian entrepreneur. And 10 years after, we had the first power plant propelled by geothermal energy. And it was the first in the world. After that, many of these power plants came in production in the world. And nowadays we have approximately 1% of the energy, electrical energy of the world, which is produced by this type of renewable source of energy. What is interesting in this particular type of energy that we have available and virtually limitless under our feet? The interesting type, compared to other sources of energy, of renewable sources of energy, is the fact that it is stable. It is clean and stable, which means that at any time in the day, you can have always the same amount of energy available for your use, which is very much different to any other type of renewable source, because with sun is intermittent, wind is intermittent, and even hydroelectric power is something which is related to the use of water. And we know that the use of water has with it major concerns, because if you stop a river, for example, to produce electricity, you may think only about the Nile region, where now they are installing dams that will prevent population in the northern part of Africa to receive the same amount of water for agricultural purposes. I mean, hydropower plants have a major concern which is related to biodiversity and the use of surface water. On the other hand, geothermal energy, and you see that it is working perfectly, it's available always, it is stable, it is clean, and it is available not only to produce electricity, but also to heat your houses, to cook food, to process food, to grow vegetables in green farms. For example, if you go to Iceland, which is a very cold place on our planet, you can find an enormous local production of tomatoes, say oranges, and other types of fruits and vegetables which are most common in the Mediterranean area, and which are there produced, say, a so-called 0 kilometers production by means of greenhouses which are, say, heated by geothermal heat. And we have images of the capital of Iceland, Reykjavik, which show that Reykjavik, at the time of carbon, say, dependence, which means all of the houses were heated by normal fossil fuels heating, you had an atmosphere which was really thick, foggy, and you could not even see the mountains which are right behind the urban area. While now, when all the urban area is heated by means of geothermal energy, you have a perfectly clear, crystal clear atmosphere, which is granted by the fact that you are using a very clean source of energy. Who can benefit from this type of energy, and where is this energy available? As I mentioned, it is available virtually everywhere in the world, because in any place in the world you have beneath your feet a geothermal resource available at different levels of temperature. So you cannot produce electric energy everywhere in the world, but, or at least you cannot produce the same amount of electric energy everywhere in the world, but you can certainly heat your houses or cool also your houses by using geothermal energy. So it is virtually, it is a resource which is virtually everywhere available. And most important, it's available to small communities, for example, which are far from any electric grid, which means that they don't need to be connected to an electric grid to be, say, sustained in their activities, also industrial or, say, crafting activities by electric power produced far away from their installation, because you can install small plants driven by geothermal energy locally. For example, this is a common case in islands like the Indonesian islands, where it is very, very difficult. They have more than 800,000 islands which are spread all over the ocean, and so it is very difficult to install a grid that feeds all of these the local community with electric power. So virtually everywhere, and virtually anyone can benefit from this kind of energy. You may think, you might ask, why only the 1% of the total electricity is produced by means of this source of energy at present? The reason why this is so is because actually we are normally relying on, say, a stable technology which dates back to the beginning of the 20th century, which uses very high temperature heat, which is not everywhere available. For example, we have here in Italy installations, United States have installation, Mexico and other parts of the world have a big installation of geothermal power plants, but not everywhere. But the new technologies allow for the production of electricity, as I said, virtually everywhere. So we have technology available to pave the way for an extended use of this source of energy, and I do hope that future generation will use this type of energy for, say, creating the blend of different sources of energy that is required by mankind to sustain their life on our planet. Because when we talk about energy, we can never talk about a single source of energy. We have to talk about a blend, and geothermal energy will surely play a crucial role in the future.
Today, with the help of new technologies, we can take actions to boost seismic resilience and to build smart cities. Our next speaker, the geophysicist Stefano Parolai, will tell us more about SDG 11.
Urban areas around the world are growing fast, and people is more and more exposed to pollution, energy consumption problems, and also to natural disasters. Among these, earthquakes can strike highly density populated areas in Central Europe and also in the Balkans. Action can be taken to mitigate the impact of an earthquake in these highly populated urban areas. The new technologies can help in improving seismic monitoring and also earthquake early warning system that are helping in providing information about a possible effect of an earthquake on target areas. Furthermore, they can also help in developing tools that allow us to estimate the impact of a disaster and to provide information just after an earthquake to institutions, to civil protection, in order that they can improve their rapid action just after a disaster. Furthermore, recent studies have shown that buildings can interact with the seismic wave fields generated by an earthquake, but it's still unclear in which condition they can generate increase or a decrease of a seismic motion that is recorded in an urban area. Furthermore, a question is arising: is this interference generating a diminishing of the ground motion? Under which condition we can use this information to improve the design of the building to mitigate the seismic risk? Can we plan better the distribution of a building in a town in order to reduce the impact of an earthquake? Can the geometry of a building be designed in the way that the reaction of the people during a disaster can be improved? Can the same geometry be thought in a way that the rescue team actions after an earthquake can be facilitated in order to speed up the rescue team actions? Can the future town be planned in order to improve resilience aiming at restarting the economical activities as soon as possible after a disaster, and in particular in safe working conditions? Can a combination of monitoring and alarming, combining with an optimal planning, help to this aim? Clearly, a multidisciplinary approach should be followed, a multidisciplinary expertise should be involved. We are now looking to new visionary ideas to this subject and to solve this problem. And who better than the young generation can provide the new and challenging ideas? So please provide your ideas considering new multidisciplinary approach which are involving architects, scientists and engineers, and try to make this dream true. Thank you.
Serena Zacchigna is a professor at the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology, and she will explain how biotechnology can be harnessed to achieve the SDGs.
Genetic engineering is also at the base of the production of recombinant protein. Once I know the gene that encodes for a protein, I can take it and insert into a bacterium. And bacteria can be grown in fermenters to obtain huge cultures and produce large amount of that specific protein. And this is exactly what has happened with insulin, which is the first human recombinant protein that has entered the market in 1982 and has completely revolutionized our capacity to cure diabetes. And after the entrance of insulin, an emerging number of biological drugs have entered clinical trials and the market itself. And these also include recombinant proteins that are used as vaccines. We have all been vaccinated against the hepatitis B virus, and what we have received is a recombinant protein, the protein that is normally exposed on the surface of the hepatitis B virus, and it is able to induce the production of antibodies that can neutralize the real virus. So traditional vaccines are based either on viruses that are artificially inactivated or on the administration of recombinant proteins that mimic what is on the surface of the virus. Now, with the COVID pandemic, we are facing new biotechnological platforms for vaccine production. The vaccines that have been authorized so far for COVID-19 are based on either messenger RNA or viral vectors, meaning viruses modified through genetic engineering, and in both cases, the genetic information, messenger RNA or the viral vector, encodes for the spike protein, the protein that is naturally exposed on the surface of SARS-CoV-2, which is the pathogen responsible of COVID-19. So now that we have these two vaccines available, we have to make sure that the whole world will move in the same direction and tackle two specific tasks. First is manufacturing. We have to manufacture as many doses as possible, as fast as possible. And second is distribution worldwide. We have to make sure that these doses are distributed to the countries independent from where they are and how much money they have. A prediction from the East Western University clearly indicates that if rich countries buy up all the doses that are currently available without making sure that they are distributed according to the global population, we will have to face twice as many deaths of COVID-19 worldwide. And this is why it's so important to invest in education, and this initiative is a very good example on how to do it. It is critical to create platforms and infrastructures where scientists, people from different parts of the planet can meet, can discuss, and can elaborate collective strategic plan for the future. And I would also strengthen the importance of fostering strategic partnership, citing an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far away, go together. It is very important that people from all over the world go into the same direction to meet the SDG.
The next three speakers will give us practical examples promoting sustainable behavior around the city of Trieste. Giulia Massolino is involved in projects fostering active citizenship around the areas of economy, urban spaces, and relationships. Ilaria Perini and Giorgia Mocilnik are the two young founders of Trieste Senza Sprechi, an initiative promoting environmentally friendly behaviors around the city of Trieste. And finally, we'll listen to Susanna Labri, whose experience with permaculture abroad inspired her to continue promoting urban gardening once she came back to Trieste.
Hi, I'm Giulia and I will tell you about my efforts in improving sustainability in my hometown, Trieste. I started a couple of years ago when with some friends we founded a group of people with the aim of fostering active citizenship in the town. We organized some focus group on three main topics: economy, urban spaces and relationships. And we used a participatory approach to provide new ideas and new projects. Then we went into the neighborhoods, meeting the people living there and asking them to tell us which were the problems they were facing in their neighborhood and which were the opportunity they could instead see in their neighborhoods. It was then when I was contacted by an association whose main aim is to improve the environmental sustainability by promoting the use of bicycle, both for everyday life than for tourism. And we organized together a big event, a demonstration in which more than 300 people cycled together through the city center to show their willingness to use the bicycle as a sustainable mobility tool. It was then the COVID-19 hit, and we started discussing about the fact that probably in September 2020 people will be much afraid of using public transportation, and so this could mean a massive use of private car in the city center. And so we gathered together more than 10 associations, local associations, and we asked together the public administration to implement some simple action to allow social distancing and to prevent the massive use of private car in the city center. And so we produced a post-COVID mobility plan, which we gave to the public administration, the municipality. And we also launched a public consultation in which we asked the citizens to pin on a map some suggestions on how to improve urban spaces and to highlight mobility issues or things that could be implemented in the spaces they knew. It was then that we decided to launch also an environmental assembly, which I am coordinating, with the aim of tackling four main topics which are strongly related with Sustainable Development Goals, which are sustainable mobility, energy, green urban spaces and waste management. We are again using participatory methods to collect ideas and to design a roadmap to make the positive vision of the future that we have become reality.
Hi everybody, I am Ilaria. I'm Giorgia. Both of us, since we were kids, we have always had a strong passion for nature, so we asked ourselves what we can do to preserve it. And that's the way our path crossed, and 3 years ago we founded Trieste Senza Sprechi. Trieste Senza Sprechi is a youth-led initiative aiming to promote sustainable behaviors and action like clothes swap, forest cleanups and informative action in which we show plastic-free alternatives to disposable ones. we always been inspired by the rules of the 5 R that are reduce, refuse, reuse, repair and recycle. Today we will talk about our online map. Here you can find those shops in Trieste that can help you in reducing your footprint and your waste. Package-free food and refillable detergent shops, second-hand shops, water dispenser to refill your bottle, book crossing and much more. The map is online on our website and is free for all. We also use our social profile to connect with community and to invite everyone to share their own experience with us. All this is to make our city more sustainable. What we have initiated here in Trieste can be replicated everywhere else. This is why we invite you to kickstart your own sustainability project. For example, by mapping these package-free shops in your city or by setting up maybe some swap corners in your school or organize a zero-waste workshop. The trick is to have a great team to work it, but remember that you can always be the part of the change and make the difference with your actions. So, thank you for watching. We hope we inspire you.
Hi, I'm Susanna Labbri. I've been living in Trieste for 4 years. Beside my studies, I got interested more and more in permaculture, which I discovered in 2017 when I went to France with WOOF, which is a platform for opportunities in organic farms. And I went there with Anna, a friend of mine, and we were hosted by a couple that was growing gardens above the ground. After a month there, we came back to Trieste and we wanted to grow urban gardens around the city, so we started looking for green areas around our home. Now, after almost 4 years, we decided we will really realize this dream and grow more urban gardens, because there are already some projects realizing urban gardens in the city center, like the association Urbe Torti, that give the possibility to citizens of the city to get a little piece of ground where they can grow their own products and vegetables. They just have to pay a little fee and they can get this piece of ground, and they just have to respect the rules of co-working. Another project that was organized by the municipality of Trieste is called Refreshed and was realized in the neighborhood of San Giusto, which is really in the city center, where you have the castle of San Giusto, which is one of the main attractions for tourists in the city. And it was all organized and the lessons were held by Massimo Raimondi, who's a young permaculturer. And the students involved were young students of high school like you, and I think it was a very nice project because they learned how to grow their own garden and how to maintain it and grow their own product. You could do it too, and I think it's a really nice initiative. You can do that in your school or in the city, and so try to get inspired from all these initiatives that more and more people are doing around the world, and be part of those people that want our earth to be green and to co-work with nature instead of going against it. If you want, you can get in contact with me on Facebook or Instagram for more questions, doubts or whatever. Bye!
With our next speaker, a professor of organic chemistry, Lucia Gardossi, we're moving into the next macro area, sustainable consumption and production, which is related to SDG 12. She will focus on new ways of growing, consuming and producing through a sustainable circular bioeconomy.
We live in a world of limited resources. However, at the same time the global population is growing, the consumption of materials are expected to double within the next 40 years. The waste generation is projected to increase by 70% within the next 3 decades. Therefore, we must seek for new ways of growing and consuming and producing. Sustainable circular bioeconomy is a strategy that the European Union has developed in order to integrate economic, social, and environmental sustainability. Bioeconomy covers all those sectors and systems that produce bioresources. Bioresources means animals, plants, microorganisms, but also biomass, or the organic fraction of waste. The novelty of the circular sustainable bioeconomy is the integration, the interlinks between all these sectors, especially the primary production like agriculture, fisheries, aquaculture, with some industrial sectors able to transform bioresources into valuable products. That means food, feed, but also bio-based chemicals, bio-based plastic materials, pharmaceutical ingredients. Therefore, this so-called bio-based industry is able to transform renewable feedstock, renewable carbon, into products which then are used by the other industrial sectors, like the manufacturing industry. The novelty of circular sustainable bioeconomy is this synergies, this new alliance between industry and primary production. But of course, in order to be successful and sustainable, bioeconomy must be circular. Overall, the circular economy means that the economy must aim to maintain within the economic cycle the raw materials in order to prevent the depletion of the resources and also to mitigate the production of waste. Circular bioeconomy is the renewable segment of circular economy. That means that circular bioeconomy realizes perfectly the circularity of economy by transforming renewable carbon, renewable biomass, mimicking the natural biological circular system. With 2,300 billion euros of turnover, bioeconomy is already a central part of the economy of the European Union. It assures 18 million jobs. And circular bioeconomy allows for the integration of social, economic, and environmental sustainability, the three pillars of sustainability. How? First of all, the social sustainability is assured by bioeconomy through the delivery of clean water, essential products, food, healthy food to all citizens, but also by creating new job opportunities in rural areas and also abandoned land. The economic sustainability is assured by bioeconomy through the construction of robust new value chains. These value chains are resilient and creates an economy which is deeply rooted in the territory and respect the local communities. On the other way, bioeconomy assures environmental sustainability. First of all, because forestry and seas assimilates carbon and hydrate. Moreover, bioeconomy valorizes biodiversity and preserves healthy ecosystems. Finally, bioeconomy produces new, sustainable, bio-based products with the lower CO2 emissions. If we look at the bio-based products of bioeconomy, we can find, for instance, renewable chemicals, renewable materials, renewable plastics, biodegradable plastics, which are able to prevent the contamination, the pollution of seas and lands, but actually bring back carbon to the soil. Moreover, advanced technologies of bioeconomy allows to transform the bio-waste of cities, for instance, into valuable products, into biofuel, into biogas. Moreover, the bio-waste can be transformed in compost, which bring back carbon to the soil. Of course, the realizing of this potential of bioeconomy cannot happen on its own, but it needs robust support, financial support for research and innovation. For instance, the European Union, the European Commission, along with the consortium of the bio-based industry, has supported a large program for financial support for the developing of new biorefineries throughout Europe. What is a biorefinery? Biorefinery is a new concept of integrated industrial environment. Basically, renewable feedstocks are transformed in all the bio-based products, which are biofuels, but as we saw before, also chemicals or cosmetics ingredients or textile products. And this allows Europe to become more independent from the fossil raw materials. The bio-based industry joint undertaking programs allow for the delivery of new innovative bio-based products. Just to give an example, a new biorefinery was developed that is based on the growth of cardoon in semi-arid lands. That means that very low input of water is needed. These cardoons are converted into new biodegradable ingredients for cosmetic or new bio-based plastics biodegradable. A second example comes from the textile sectors. From the residue of the processing of milk, it is possible to obtain new materials which are very sustainable and are biodegradable. So overall, we can conclude that the bioeconomy demonstrates how the sustainability is not just a simple legal obligation, but it's an opportunity to innovate and also to reconcile growth with social well-being.
Efforts and initiatives towards the SDGs should come from all members of society because in most cases they complement each other. Our next speaker, Luigi Camerlenghi, a master's student, is going to show us a brilliant example about how we can transform cut grass into fuel.
Would you believe me if I told you that you can transform cut grass and branches into fuels, chemicals and materials? I know it sounds crazy, but it is true. This kind of plant-derived wastes can be called lignocellulosic biomass, or LCBs for short, and they are produced in great amounts all over the world. They can be found in the municipal waste, but also in the residues from agriculture, food processing, forestry and other industries. And their improper disposal causes a lot of environmental burden, from pollution to greenhouse gases emission. Of course, you can simply burn them to produce heat, but these wastes can become quite more useful if you know how to valorize them. Through what is called biorefinery, you can transform biomasses such as LCBs into value-added products, like food, animal feed, chemicals, materials and biofuels. And this can be achieved by combining multiple physical, chemical and biological methods together. LCBs can be broken down to their essential constituents, and each one of them can take a different path to make a different product. This is why it is often referred to as integrated biorefinery. In addition, residues coming from these processes can be recycled and valorized as well, so to reach the zero waste goal and build a circular economy. Biorefinery can help us quickly achieve several sustainable development goals all at once, by reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, creating employment, ensuring access to affordable and sustainable energy, especially in rural areas. All of these while consuming a renewable green resource, plant waste. One of the methods used in biorefinery involves fermentation by microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi, which are naturally adapted to consume plant matter. They are widely employed to produce low-cost bioethanol in huge bioreactors. Of course, it is not an easy task to assemble such a large structure, nor it is cheap, but we can make something very similar even at home or at school. Have you ever heard of composting? It transforms organic waste into soil amendment, which can be used for pot plants or in a vegetable garden. The basics are just the same, only a bit smaller and less complicated. Now, if you feel like doing compost is not enough to reach the SDGs, but you're not sure you would be able to start a biorefinery all by yourself just yet, think about who could do it. If you never heard about biorefineries before, maybe someone else has not, someone who could actually build one. And think about the farmers, the companies or local governments that may wish to dispose great amounts of biomass, not knowing it can be used in a smarter way. Do they even collect and separate organic waste from the rest at all? Right now you can play a key role by searching and sharing information and by bringing the right people together.
With our last speaker, Tommaso Pedicchio, we are going to hear a few examples of an urban farming system taking place in Porto Vecchio, or the old port of Trieste, by reusing an abandoned warehouse and bringing new value into this important part of the city.
Starting from the end of the 17th century, the city of Trieste saw a huge expansion in economical, demographic and cultural terms. This was also possible for the strategic geographical location and position of the city, which made Trieste the natural port of Central Eastern Europe. The port of Trieste became international and reached a great development, bringing the city to a period of extraordinary growth. Then, in the mid of the 19th century, it became necessary to build a new port near the rail station. This was mainly due to the need of better connecting the city to the central of Europe. In the same period and in the future years, Trieste would have become a center of excellence for innovation, scientific and technological development. As a consequence, in this context, the area of the old port, which was called Porto Vecchio, was abandoned for several tens of years. And only recently a call for ideas to renovate this area was launched. So in this period we thought about a project that could mix innovation and sustainability at the same way. So we thought about how to smartly reuse and repurpose one of these abandoned warehouses on the seafront in a sustainable way. And we thought about a vertical urban farming system based on hydroponic. This could be installed in one of the seafront warehouses in a very sustainable way, adding a real value for the city. So how would it work? First of all, an array of thousands of energy-efficient LED lights which would bath rows and rows of vegetables with pink light in a vertical structure. Then nutrient-rich water would be pumped in a closed circuit continuously running. There would be solar power on the roof, and this would create a totally sustainable, self-sufficient system with the 100% renewable energy and 90% less of water consumption. This could be a great project since it could be take and bring two main advantages for people. The first one, citizens would have any vegetables that they would need growth organically, locally, and available 365 days per year. And at the same time, this could be a great opportunity also for tourists for sale, tasting and promotion of locally organic and growth foods. We consider this project as sustainable in three ways. In fact, at the same time, this could be a sustainable project from an energetic, farming and a water-consuming way. But this could be sustainable also for a business model point of view, since it could be possible to access and to request European and national funds, and the project could be profitable by producing and selling these local products. But at the end, this could be a sustainable project also from an operational and management point of view, since we aim and we mean of involving locally farming companies and local experts of task.
Thanks to the support received from the Friuli Venezia Giulia region and the Fondazione CR Trieste, we were also able to award two additional schools from the region, the Francesco Petrarca High School and the Enrico Mattei from Latisana Lignano Sabbiadoro.
Hello, my name is Benedetta. I'm in the third year of the Classical High School Petrarca in Trieste, Italy. My class learned about the call for ideas at the beginning of this year, thanks to our school. We immediately decided to take part in a project, and we chose to focus on superficial basins, since we had already studied Agenda 2030 and its goals, and since we had discovered that currently Italy is losing an average of 90% of rainwater due to the lack of water basins to use for its collection. Hence, we consulted several experts on the subject, naturalists and architects for instance, and then we went to the local territory in small groups to study it firsthand. There, we discovered a humble reality that reflects the world. From here, the title of our project, Ponds Reflect the Sky. Our project identifies 8 actions and 21 sub-actions aimed at restoring at least a part of the historical pond system, increasing the biodiversity of the karst territory and the environmental culture in a population, and much more. My classmates and I are already planning to engage in a schoolwork learning experience the next year that is linked to our project. We are going to restore a pond and other elements of the rural architecture, and we are going to inaugurate its ordinary maintenance.
Good morning, I'm Luca Bonora, a teacher of electronics at Mattei, here in Latisana, the province of Udine, in north of Italy. Our school offers 5 courses. A technical school specialized in electronics, a technical school for commerce, technical school for tourism, a scientific high school, and a foreign languages high school. The technical school of electronics, which I coordinate, throughout the years developed different projects. One of the most important is an Automatica project, included in school curriculum. Thanks to it, the students can deepen aspects about electrical and electronic systems, automation systems, applied to maritime products. And then, since 2013, the school has been collaborating with the Maritime Technological Cluster, called Mare FVG. So, the students has been involved in a project which deals with underwater robotics. Moreover, our school started a collaboration with Malignani School with the purpose of developing a specialization in robotics. We developed the idea of the call after observing the problems and needs of this region. Our region is located in North Adriatic Sea. That is a natural area with many specific challenges not present in other areas. In particular, we have some important lagoons with a delicate ecosystem. Therefore, the possibility of exploring the seabed using a device that can pick up samples of sea water and sediments to analyzing is an opportunity. The idea was developed keeping in mind the goals of the 2013 agenda and focusing on the most important one for our region. the life below water. So, you can map with the idea of a new technical device that can be used for underwater studies and analysis. I think that its implementation would contribute to involve students to examining 2030 goals and so the environmental problems. But it would encourage the student to carry out technical studies in order to better understand the world they live in. At last, I think that the project is fundamental to help students understand how the technology may assist us in solving environmental issues.
At the end of this SDG-related journey, we are confident that you're ready inspired for action. We need more young leaders to join us in the global movement in building a better future together. And this is your chance to be one of them.